All right, let's have a look at this little door over here, as we discussed in the work in progress channel yesterday. So I want to start out really basic with this one. This is just the material or like the texture applied to a simple plane, right? So we're not doing anything fancy. It just has like an opacity map on it, and that's it. I can show you quickly the material here. So it's basically I bake from a high poly to a plane, so that we get the information baked down onto like a flat piece of geometry. And then what I do here is nothing fancy. I just give it some colors. I just add some randomization on it so that we can get like a pretty interesting looking base color. And then just set up like all the maps that I need for Unreal Engine. The important maps here are especially the height, because later on down we'll be using parallax occlusion mapping, so we'll need a height map. But the rest of it is just fairly basic. Like we just have a base color, we have a channel packed, ambient occlusion, roughness, and metallic, but we're not using any metallic because this is wood. Then we have the height as discussed before. And then we have the normal for like the finer details and just making it look good. So from this point on, we have like all the maps that we need. And then it's just time to get it all set up in Unreal, right? Like we were talking about before. So this is the setup. Oh, yeah, I forgot one additional map here, which is the opacity map. Of course, we can't forget about that, because else you can't see through like the texture itself. So we definitely need one of those. Alright, so opacity map in hand, we can now set it all up. So you can see we got base color, normal, we got opacity, and like the channel packed map for like occlusion, roughness, and metallic. So there's nothing really special about this, you know? Like this is just set to double-sided or like two-sided down here. Just make it like double-sided, right? So that we can't like see through it from the opposite side, which looks really good at this point. So let me take that back on. Let's have another look here. It looks decent. The issue is when we're gonna use parallax occlusion mapping on it to actually displace or like give the feeling of like depth to this texture. I'll show you what I mean. So I've got like a node set up here, which is basically all the inputs that I need for my parallax occlusion mapping, which is driven by the height map, as we talked before. And now if I just start adding like the height ratio, I start pulling that up a little bit, you can see what that's doing to the texture, right? So let me go back to 0, which is just flat plane. Like it doesn't look like it's really coming out at all. But then if we start increasing it, you can really see that it's faking the depth. Like it's creating an illusion of depth on it. Now this is where it becomes like it becomes an issue for the backside of it, because you can tell by the height map. Let me quickly show you the height map. So because these are all like cylindrical tubes, the center of the tube is going to be higher than the sides of the tubes, right? So you can kind of see that ever so slightly here, that the center will always be more pushed out in height information than the sides of it, because we want to have that rounded effect of these branches, right? However, what happens on the back side of it is that because it's treating it as like a two-sided panel, it's not gonna invert the information of the height map, so it's basically gonna look like hollowed out tubes on the back side of it. You can kind of see that here, right? Like if you look at this one, it kind of feels like the information is going in instead of outwards, like we would expect a proper branch or like a piece of wood to look like, right? So what can we do to fix that? Like, we know that the two-sidedness doesn't work, so we need to come up with a different solution. And the solution to that is just adding a plane here, like basically the same plane that we already have for the front, but we just add it to the back and we flip the normal of it. So that the normal is pointing outwards, basically towards us if we're looking at this now. So that we have the front panel is facing outwards, and then the back panel is facing the other direction. Let me show you what that does. So if we get rid of the two-sided just for a second, and if I just quickly move this over and re-import this door. Oh, hold on. Let me make sure that I re-exported it first. Takes a bit of time because there's so many assets in this scene. There we go. Let's re-import this door. Bonk. Now we see the same effect is happening on the inside as was happening on the outside. It's not going inwards, it's actually going outwards again. So that's kind of the look that we want, right? To have the illusion of it being like a rounded branch that is built into this door. And that's basically it. Like, it's a fairly quick overview of how to make this look good. Yeah, once you got this all set up, let me just add this here. There's one more thing. If you're looking to set this up yourself, there's a Parallax Occlusion mapping node built into Unreal Engine. And you just have to set it up like this, where the height map is going to be driving the information. The usual height ratio is 0.04. That seems to be the standard. And then you can control like the amount of stepping that's happening. Like, if you zoom in really close, you can kind of see like there's stepping happening. But from like as soon as you're out in the distance, you can't see the stepping anymore. So obviously, the higher you increase this, the more expensive it's going to get. And then you can set the scale of the texture, which I currently in the instance have set to 2. So I can just go in here and like control the size of this texture if I wanted to. Set it to 1, set it to 2. And the last thing is the reference plane here. The reference plane just dictates where the information, or like how balanced the information is going to be from the height map. So you can push it lower down or you can push it higher up in relative position to the height map. Yeah, that's it. Quick overview on how I set up this material. It's looking pretty good. What I might do to add some extra interest is see if I can cut out some sections and just ever so slightly push stuff over so that it's not looking like a tileable material, but that you actually get some deformation, and that it's not just like straight all over the place. But yeah, that does it for this little tutorial overview thingy. Let me know if this helps.